Testing? Okay. Yeah, so more about me. My name's Cara. This is Steven, my husband, and we own Steed Interactive, which we've been doing for about the last 3 years, a little over 3 years now. And basically, we jumped in feet first. I think Steven has been doing code stuff for about 10 years prior to this at Oklahoma Christian as their web development director. And then moved short time to an agency that doing web stuff, and it was just not really his cup of tea. And then I had been doing some freelance on the side for a while since I was out of school. And so I am a graphic designer, and that's kind of my background, a lot of branding work and in design. And we basically jumped in full, he quit his job, and I had already quit a while back to stay home with babies. And so we were both doing this at the same time. And we started out kind of freelance. And then we decided, okay, we want to start making the recurring monthly income. So we're going to add people and add services and kind of start building up an agency. And so for all of 2017, we were saying, we're an agency. We do content development and that kind of thing and sell our services that way. And just this last year, we kind of realized, okay, we've made a lot of mistakes. We don't necessarily know how to sell our services, and adding people is just kind of adding to the chaos. And so we've actually cut back, and we're now kind of moving back to the freelance side of things. In a more smart way, maybe. We've learned from a lot of our mistakes. We're learning how to sell our services. We're learning what actually appeals to our clients and what's helpful for our clients. And instead of just kind of not knowing what we're doing, we're working on building up our business with the two of us and making sure that we know how to grow our business without just adding people, adding services, adding time sold. So that's what's been going on these last 3 years, and I'm hoping to kind of share some of our mistakes with you today so that you can learn from them instead of doing them yourself. And so that's kind of the last 3 years, and I'll tell you there's 4 things before you jump into freelance. And I was asking a little while ago, you do freelance in the back, and then who else has done freelance? Kimberly, and you've done freelance. But everyone else, is freelance a goal for you? Is that something that you are interested in doing once you learn what you're doing? Okay, yeah. So yeah, before you jump into that, there's 4 things that you need to understand. And I will say there are a ton of resources online. Google is your best friend when you're getting started in this. So if you're looking to, pricing or accounting or, all the technical stuff that gets, the background of what you are needing to do, Google is your best friend. You can find a lot of help online, a lot of free information. But there's 4 things that you need to understand and kind of work towards for freelance if you want to be successful. And I will say, a lot of this, we kind of just realized, okay, we don't have a good understanding of these things. How can we get that? And we paid consultants to figure this out. So that's always an option for you. But some mistakes that we were making over these last 3 years. One, we were very attached. We were very up close and personal with our deliverables and the actual product that we sold. We took a lot of pride in our work, which is a really good thing to have. It's good to be confident in what you're doing. But when I say we were too attached to what we were selling, what we're doing is we kind of put value on our services that someone else doesn't see. Like, it's when you're kind of up there working, you're putting in the hours, you don't realize like what someone else is seeing, what your clients actually value. It's hard to communicate to them the value of, you know, your time or your expertise if all you're doing is kind of if it's one-sided perspective of your work. We didn't understand money when we started it out. We were basically just trying to make up our salary, and for freelance, there's so much more that goes into pricing your services than just making up your salary. A lot of it is, like, of course, you want to survive and you want to be able to pay your bills. But there's a lot more that goes into your cost than just the time that goes into each product or each deliverable. And so I'll go into that too. And then we didn't understand value. And that's kind of the same as we were too attached to the deliverables, but we didn't really understand how to communicate to our clients in a way that they understand, in a way that kind of leads them to see why they need us. So yeah, that's like the big things. And I think that a lot of freelancers don't think about, you know, how they're going to actually sell their services or how they're going to, you know, make up their time and make sure that they are full, have a full roster of clients. A lot of people just kind of jump in blindly, saying, "Hey, I got this cool thing," and that's actually one of the things I love freelance for, is that anyone can do it. Anyone can jump in. Anyone it's very accessible to people. It's kind of a great neutralizer, because you don't have to be part of a bigger company. You don't have to be dependent on, you know, them just kind of feeding you like the scraps. You actually get to set your prices and, you know, make the money that you want to make through freelance. And if only like it was that easy. And it actually is easy. You just have to kind of know what those things are in order to make that money. So yeah, back to the 4 things that you need to understand. If you can detach from your product, detach from the deliverables. So you're putting a lot of time into making sure that you have a quality product, that you have a quality, that you do quality work, and you're very up close and personable with that. But if you can detach from what you're doing each day and realize, you know, some people are too emotionally close to their product in order to have a kind of bird's eye view of it. And that goes like for just when you're communicating with your clients, when you're trying to price your services, and when you're doing sales. If you can detach emotionally from that product, you are going to be a better business person. You can be a better, you know, be more empathetic to your clients when they don't understand what's going on. And it just makes you more approachable if you can come at this product as, you know, a little bit less emotionally attached. Another reason you want to detach from your products is if you are, you know, building this business out, like if you do end up doing freelance all the time, eventually you're going to want to be able to bring more people on and be able to, you know, sell more than just the thing that you're selling. And the way you do that is, you know, you have to kind of let other developers, other people kind of bring their craft in, and they're going to do things different than you, but it's still good. So if you can detach just from the product itself a little bit. The other thing is money. So you need to understand money before you jump into freelance. And I will say there's 3 stages of freelance. And basically there's the first stage where you're kind of learning freelance and learning how to work with clients, learning how to get a deliverable produced that is a quality product, and you're basically kind of like feeling it out. I would say that this stage is best done when you are still have a 9-to-5 salary, not the way that Stephen and I did it. We did a lot of learning that first year, just trying to figure out how to go back and forth with clients, or how many rounds of with design you have to kind of do like revisions and that kind of thing. So we were just learning way too much without being paid full time. And then there's the second stage of freelance, where you are confident in the deliverable that you've produced. You've worked with clients. You can actually lead them through a project, and you are filling up your time. You are booking basically based on you're selling your services based on the time that it takes you to produce, or the deliverables that are produced with it. And then after that, the third stage of freelance is you're no longer selling your services based on the time and deliverables, but the actual value that the clients are getting out of your services. And that's when you are able to start leveraging your time, where you actually start making more money than the time that you are putting in. So that's kind of the third stage. And I will say time versus leverage. So there's also two ways of doing freelance, where you have the time that you put in is you can sell your services to a lot of clients, and if you're just trying to make up the salary that you had given up, then you basically are going from one boss who gives you a salary to a lot of bosses that give you a salary. Those clients, like the level of expertise that you have, if you aren't leading them throughout the whole process, through the sales and through everything else, the clients actually become your boss, and you aren't your own boss. Even though that it's flexible, like you have the flexibility, you have you can set your own prices. It's still, there's this point where you go from having many bosses to being your own boss and actually leading the clients, and showing them what the value is of your services. And that's where you start to sell not just the time and deliverables, but the actual value. And so then you can start being your expert, being a consultant to your clients. And I'll also say pricing, like everyone gets very nervous about when they go to price their services, but pricing is it doesn't mean anything. The actual price tag doesn't ever mean anything. The same service that you're selling for $500, someone else is selling for $10,000. The websites that we were building for $5,000, we learned some people are selling for $30,000. The actual price tag does not matter. Now, you can't just kind of say, I'm a freelancer, I'm going to go sell my stuff for this much money. Like, there is value that you have to put into the product that is not based on deliverables or based on the time that you put in. The actual value that you're able to add is a little bit more, if you can make that results-based. Actually, we'll just move on to number 3. Number 3, if you can understand value of your services. And the value, it comes when you have let's say you have a client, and you can see like where they're at, where they're struggling, and hit on those pain points. Like, okay, you obviously need the exact thing that I am doing here. And then talk to them about like what is their benefit? Where does this service get them? Like, what are their goals? What are the emotions tied to, being a little bit more free, like having a lot more flexibility with their website, or being able to bring in more leads through their website, or if you're doing apps, like what money would they be able to bring in with those apps, or what convenience is there? If you can point out, like, they're struggling now, they have a vision, and they have a gap, like, so that's where your services go. And it's not necessarily about the time that you put in or the deliverable. It's about you solving their problem. And if you are the one to solve their problem, then they're going to give you the money. And if they believe that you are the only one who can solve their problem, because you fully understand, and they will, because you fully understand what their pain points are, then they're more likely to give you what you ask for. So the price becomes basically what you feel is worth the value to them. Let's talk about the emotional benefits to value. There are a lot of different pains that people have, like if you're working with business owners, then a lot of their pain is like they have a bottleneck. They can't continue to sell more, or they have to, they're stressed, they're overstressed, they don't have the systems in place that they need, they don't have the revenue in place. Like, there's a lot of pain there, and it's not just business related all the time. Sometimes it's, they're stressed, they're overworked, their employees don't respect them, or, there's all kinds of things that you can find out that is a problem. And then they have the pain, and they're also making mistakes. And you can tell them, like, what mistakes they are making. You might lead them through that conversation and ask them what mistakes they are making, or where they want to be, instead of just putting up their defenses. But and then lead them to their vision, and their vision is usually something that brings them money, something that lessens their stress. And so if you can anchor your price to their emotions and the value to what they need, instead of what you are needing and the money that you need to bring in, you're going to kind of, it makes them think that you are here for them, and it makes the project about their needs and not about you. So even though it's like it's counterintuitive to make it all about them, but that's really all that they care about. And it also establishes trust in you. They don't think that you're just out there to get their money. They don't think that they don't think that you need them as much, that you don't need the sale. And that establishes a lot of trust, and money follows trust. So if you can get your clients to trust you, and a lot of that is, having good work and having good clients in the past, but then if you can establish trust up front with clients, that leads them to want to give you more money. And the same is also true if you are doing freelance for a company, a larger company, except for their pain points are going to be different. So if you're kind of doing coding for an agency or something like that, then it's more about, they are needing someone who's dependable. They're needing someone who can get the job done on their timeline. They just need to know that you are going to be present, that you're going to get the job done. And that, their problem is more about impressing their boss than it is about fulfilling the client's need, although some of that is there too. So you just kind of, if you can, instead of selling from your perspective, if you can find out what their true needs are. And a lot of that is just asking them questions that matter. And, don't be afraid to ask the questions that you need to know in order to price your services. And the number 4 thing that kind of reaches across all of everything is confidence. And if you have confidence in the service that you're providing, if you can lead your client through the whole process with confidence that you're going to get the job done. So what we found is a lot of times when we would go into a first meeting where we're meeting and talking about what we're going to do for someone before we ever get the job, is that the client themselves are not confident. Like, they don't know that we can get the job done. And people project feelings onto other people. So them feeling not confident would show up. And then we would start to feel less confident about what we were offering. And it was kind of like this spiral downwards where, like, by the end, they're just like, well, I'm not sure if Seed is the right people for the job, because they don't know if they're the right people for the job. But we found when we show up with confidence that projects back to them. And when we say, like, yes, you obviously have a need here, and it's our services that are going to help you get the results that you want. And when we showed up with that confidence, then they just, like, it's kind of a peaceful feeling that they get, that they're like, yes, this is who we need. And then we could quote them the price that we want, and, like, it doesn't matter. The actual price is anchored to the results, anchored to our confidence, and we could tell them, whatever price it is, and they would say, okay, how can I make this work? Instead of, like, no, that's too much. So if you have, and I will say, like, as you're starting out, if you can find confidence in one area of what you're doing, like, say you're good at a certain type of product, if you can kind of carry that and push your confidence to other places, find your confidence in one area and then use it, with your clients. You can find your confidence here and then work to, there's ways. If you have the confidence in one place, then you can likely find it in another place, and you just have to find it and use it. And I think when you're starting out, when you're still in that first phase of freelance where you're learning your product and learning how to work with clients, you can tell them, like, hey, this is something, you can work out with them what price it needs to be, I guess. And if you're getting that project done, like, you can use that project to fuel your confidence for the next project. So it doesn't really matter, like, what those first few projects look like, as long as you're kind of, like, making sure that your goal is confidence in the product that you sell. That's kind of like our 4 things, and I'll open it up to questions. So if you have any questions about any specific things in freelance, I'm happy to answer. Good.
So when you guys make contracts, do you have any advice for, like, making contracts with clients, how are payments scheduled, or any other things you've learned over your experiences?
He's asking, with contracts, if we have any specific payment schedules or anything that we've learned about contracts. So with contracts, and I will say, like, there's 2 parts of contracts. There is the statement of work, which is, we basically turn the proposal into the statement of work. And then there's a terms of service. And the terms of service is something that we went to a lawyer for, but there are terms of service online. And ours is probably very specific to design and front-end web development. But that statement of work outlines kind of the scope of the project, and it outlines the payment schedule. And really, it just kind of depends on what you want to get paid. But I would say get paid as much as you can up front. We started out doing 50-50, and clients were always pretty happy with that. Now we try to do 100% up front, but we'll work with people if they need to schedule out their payments. And we kind of let them bring it up. We don't, so if it's, right now our package price is $5,500. It's like an 8-week program where we do consulting for e-commerce companies. And we say, hey, it's $5,500, and they say, can I schedule that out? And I say, yes, what are you thinking? And then they'll say, okay, can I split it into 2 payments? And then, yeah, that works. Or sometimes they'll ask for 3 payments, like, yeah, that works. We don't like for them, like we're not a bank, so we don't want to be scheduling out payment plans for people. They could go to the bank, they can put it on a credit card and get payment plans that way. But as far as money goes, like cash flow is extremely important for freelancers, and if you are putting a lot of work into a project where you get paid up front and then paid at the end, that cash flow will dip each month and be irregular. So if you can't collect all the money that you need, then it's just a very unsure way of doing business, I guess. We don't do as many contracts anymore. We don't do as many statement of works. Oh, I will say there's a contract online. So one thing that we've stopped doing is we've stopped listing the deliverables in our contracts because we are results focused, and we've always said that we price on value, which is not true. We've always pretty much just price on what we need to make. And when we started pricing on the value and the results that people get, then we were also, when we were doing that and then still listing the deliverables in the contract, then it still looks like you're pricing based on the deliverables they get, which doesn't always make sense because, until that first few meetings, we don't even know exactly what the client needs. And I think that's very true for scoping on code as well. You get into a project and you realize oh crap, this looked really simple, but it's not. That's going to take a few more weeks. And so if you are listing out the deliverables and not basing your price on results, then for one, you're probably undercutting yourself up front and not leaving room for there to be the extra time. Or, you just, you're nodding your head. Are you agreeing? Yes. Right, and he was saying, you kind of build yourself into a corner and don't allow yourself to pivot, and that's very true. That's what we were finding in our contracts is we would say, we can do this and this and this for you, and then when this and this wasn't, we would do those things, and then it wouldn't provide the results, and then we would come back to the client and say, actually, you don't need this. It turns out you need this. And we've already lost that trust that needed to be there up front. And so you actually build a lot of trust up front if you can say, we don't know what you need. We need to dive into your business and learn what you need, and then we can build out. And some people also do a discovery package. Discovery is kind of a buzzword, but where you take 2 weeks and really dive in to what they're doing, they are paying for that, and they can take your kind of prescription and go, take it to someone else, or they can stay on and take and have you do the work. But those 2 weeks it's a lot of research on your part, and it also kind of sets up your project for success. So you're not like prescribing anything before you actually know about their business. And so having the discovery up front and then doing all that stuff in the background. But is that? Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
How would you suggest like someone who's working more of a gig style, like Fiverr or Freelancer or Freelance, something like that, and having them pivot to more medium to large size businesses or even smaller businesses but more personal? But I think a lot of people get stuck working doing the $10 WordPress plugin development and not moving towards the $3,500
Mm-hmm. The question was, what is my advice for someone who's working on Fiverr or some of the gig development sites and moving to doing their own work, I guess building their own business? Is that kind of what? Yeah. I'd say for one, you aren't completely, like you are learning how to do this. If you are learning how to work with clients, then that's not a bad way to start, because that does give you leads to begin with. But to make the jump, I think you still have to understand, like, detach from. That's going to be really hard to detach from if you're selling your services for so much little amounts of money and building those larger company businesses. Selling your own services, you have to realize that someone is charging $50 for whatever, that someone else is charging $5,000 for that same work. Like, if you can realize, like, you can get that larger amount of money and realize that, like, that's not, the Fiverr does not define your business, that there's a lot more potential. Just like making the, being able to jump is kind of, like, you do have that capability to jump, and so you should take it, I guess. Don't let, like, that mindset hold you back. And I'd say you still have the work, you still have the confidence that you built from that, and you can use that to put towards your future clients. You also have to learn how to get those clients, and a lot of that is, talking confidently about their needs and talking confidently about, like, what they're struggling with, and then making it like you're the one service that the service that you provide is the answer to their problems. So kind of learning how to get clients through the way that you talk about your services. They don't just show up at your door. So, yeah. Did that answer? Cool. Yeah. So referral is a good way to go, especially if you have a history of clients that love you. That's a great way to stay afloat. And you want that so that you want kind of that base. If you don't have clients that have trusted you in the past, then it's hard to get future clients to trust you. But Steve and I right now are using Facebook to get clients. And that is kind of a very new thing. Like, that's a this year thing since we've hired this consultant. And it works. But basically with any social media, any profile, like if you are talking about your service, your expertise, and kind of the pain, like the mistakes that people are making, that gets people curious. It gets them kind of interested in what you're saying, and then you need a way to get people to see that. And what we do is we go into Facebook groups and post there, and we're going to be using Facebook ads. We haven't gotten there yet. We're getting a lot of great feedback without doing ads right now. And so if you can, same with LinkedIn, if you can, prime your profile, like this is what I do, this is my expertise, and then go find people that are your ideal customer, and then they see, like, if you, one of the things that you do have to do is, like, if you can pinpoint exactly what their needs are and pinpoint who your customer is, like just the way you can talk to them, like if they can automatically say, like, oh, this is exactly what I need, then you're halfway there. So, any other questions?
To add to what Cara was saying, when we first got started, we didn't do that. We didn't, what?
You're not mic'd.
Okay.
You might be on this side for the camera.
Sorry. Well, I was just going to add that when we first got started, like, you might not have that knowledge base to communicate with people a lot. Like, we printed off business cards, and I was walking around to small businesses saying, hey, I make websites. Here's, so you got to do what you got to do at the beginning to kind of build up your experience. If you don't have any client work at all, you could start off, like, talk to some small nonprofits or something and just volunteer to help them out. Like, hey, I'll build you a website for free. And then you'll always have that work to refer back to you. I just was making sure, like, there's kind of an intermediate step there where you kind of scramble around and learn what you're doing while you're trying to talk to people.
Basically, if people know they have a problem and they know that you solve it, then the more people you meet that have a problem, the more you're going to find that want you to solve their problem. So it is kind of a numbers game where if you can just meet more people who have problems and make them realize, like, you can help them. And it doesn't have to be like a slimy salesy thing. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys thought this future. I kind of feel like you don't know where at the end, like, your final niche will end up being until you, like, get started. Like, getting started is the most important part. Then you build, like, a well application, you build your portfolio. Then you build, find, like, where your expertise really lie, what you enjoy doing, what you feel like you get the value to work from, you end up doing that. So you start off with, like, you may have experience as well, like, on small websites for, like, nonprofits, have, like, 6 pages, and suddenly you're like, well, that's great and all, but $500 is not as great as $5,000. If I do e-commerce, it's better and I'm more interested. Maybe it helps my marketing skills work. Maybe. Do you guys like the feature as well?
Yeah. And your question was, if I can sum them up for the camera, if we can, it's hard to find a niche up front until we've done the work to decide. Yeah. We did not know our niche up front. We worked with a score mentor about a year and a half ago, and she advised us to niche down. And so that's when we started realizing, okay, well, this is the work we enjoy doing. Let's continue to narrow it down. And we spent like a year, like, actually narrowing down onto e-commerce. We had just decided, like, consumer products or and that kind of thing. And a lot of that was, like, our own expertise that kind of developed in what we liked to do that helped us narrow down. But I will say, like, if you are able to narrow down your target, your ideal customer, for one, like, that makes it easier for them to realize that you are the one person that can help them. And it also makes your work easier. Like if you're able to systemize the stuff that you do, that means that you're able to leverage your time and charge more based on their results. So you're not charging based on your deliverables and the time that you put in. Then you, like just being able to repeat the work that you're doing and sell it again and again. If there's any part of your process that you can do that for, then you're not starting over from scratch for each client. It doesn't take like 16 weeks to get it done. It's something that you can make money and sell. So niching down is actually a really, it makes it fun, to be honest. I mean, it was fun to kind of explore our talents at first whenever we were learning like what we can do. But now I just enjoy being able to help more people, and I can help more people if I can sell them the same thing over and over again. So, yeah. Any other questions? If how far have you guys gotten with your coding? Like, only a few people have started freelance. How many people are like doing this for full time, like coding for full time job? Okay. Yeah. So freelance is probably a little ways out there. I will say that if you are able to freelance for people and start selling your services, that's a really fast way to learn because you have like an actual real life problem in front of you. And if you can just, tell your client like, hey, this is a learning process. Every project is different. So of course I'm going to be taking time to make sure that you get your results. That's a really great way to get started in freelance without feeling guilty or without feeling like you're doing this client a disservice. If you can just be honest up front, like, hey, every project is different for me. I want to take a lot of time, make sure that you get the results that you want, and maybe you give them a price that you feel is fair. But if you can just get going on that, like that's how you're going to learn the quickest. And there's this is a really great community. Like I'm sure Kimberly and a lot of other people here, even in this room, would be here to help you. If you were to hit a standstill. I think Techlahoma Slack is also a good place to go for answers. But like just this real world experience of freelance is going to push you a lot farther than a 9-to-5 job where you're doing the same thing every day. Having those different projects up front, like learning what niche you like, that's a really good first step. And like Steven was saying, all it takes is like passing out a business card. It doesn't have to be fancy business card. Just meeting some people who might need some help. So yeah. Any other questions before I? Huh? Okay. Yep. Well, thank you for having me. It was good to talk to you guys. Thanks.